got to fight other things.
When I'm back in the White House, we will expel the warmongers, the profiteers, and take over our government, and we will restore world peace.
Most Republicans have backed the Venezuela operation, but now Trump's changing definition of America First before our eyes threatens to widen a rift with his MAGA base. Former ally Marjorie Taylor Greene said bluntly on social media, this is what many in MAGA thought they voted to end. Boy, we were wrong.
White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles conceded that attacking targets on Venezuela's mainland would force Trump to get congressional approval. If he were to authorize some activity on land, she said, then it's war. Then we'd need Congress. Again, that was Donald Trump's own White House Chief of Staff in a piece that came out just last month.
Alex, this is insane. What are we doing? I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. Have we not learned the lessons of the last 20 years of forever wars?
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here. And Donald Trump promised no new wars. He promised America first. He promised an end to regime change and blood for oil. And his strike on Venezuela has already blown that lie out of the water. It's not just Democrats saying it either. It's also Republicans.
I think it is essential that we cheer for democracy to succeed in Venezuela. The reason I wanted to give an update is because where I became a little more concerned, significantly more concerned, is when the president earlier today did a press conference. And in that, he talked a lot about oil, didn't talk much about drugs, didn't talk much about democracy, talked a lot about oil. But the president has basically taken every negative, I guess, stereotype or thought about U.S. intervention in the Western Hemisphere and basically said out loud, yeah, that's what we're doing. That is very frightening to me and very damaging. But you have to trust the administration and the people that are executing this. And unfortunately, I don't.
Adam Kinzinger is warning this move could backfire badly. Republicans on Fox News are admitting their voters don't want boots on the ground. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene is breaking ranks, saying MAGA voters thought they were voting to end exactly this kind of intervention.
Now, I am not defending Maduro, and of course, I'm happy for the people of Venezuela to be liberated, but Americans celebrated the liberation of the Iraqi people after Saddam Hussein. They celebrated the liberation of the Libyan people after Gaddafi, and this is the same Washington playbook that we are so sick and tired of, that doesn't serve the American people, but actually serves the big corporations, the banks, and the oil executives. We don't consider Venezuela our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is right here in the 50 United States, not in the Southern Hemisphere.
And while all of that is happening, reporting cited by the New York Times shows civilians were killed in the strikes. No new wars, America first, no blood for oil. Once again, it's business as usual for Donald Trump, just dressed up in louder slogans and bigger lies.
One of the things that I know that the president's supporters absolutely love is that he has been arguing since he first ran 10 years ago that he's going to end forever wars and put America first.
Yeah.
Now he says he's running Venezuela. He's totally open to putting boots back on the ground there. And he's signaling that Cuba and Colombia could be next. How is that America first?
Yeah, the United States has accused Maduro of corruption and drug trafficking for years. Yeah, there's been a bounty on him. But let's be clear about what just happened. Maduro wasn't a fugitive on the run. He was the president of a sovereign country, guarded, entrenched, politically protected. And now he's gone. That's a new level of American power, and it's a dangerous one. Because once you normalize abducting foreign leaders, you tell every country on earth that international law is optional as long as you're strong enough. And what happens next? Total uncertainty. There's no clear successor, no transition plan, no guarantee Venezuela doesn't spiral into chaos, collapse, or civil conflict. Trump may call this a win, but chaos after Maduro would be a global loss. And here's where even Republicans are starting to panic. On Fox News, a Republican congresswoman straight up admitted her voters do not want boots on the ground.
As I said, as a 24-year military veteran,
this operation, joint military law enforcement and intelligence that was on the ground, I'm sure in Venezuela, was done with surgical precision. It was executed brilliantly, and I commend our troops. I commend President Trump. None of us want nation building. Now, I can tell you, Iowans do not want troops on the ground in Venezuela.
They don't want nation building. They don't want American troops sent into Venezuela to run the country. Even while praising the operation, she had to acknowledge the truth that Trump keeps ignoring. Republican voters are done with this kind of playbook. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene comes out and says the quiet part out loud. MAGA voters thought they were voting to end this kind of thing. Boy, were we wrong. Yeah. This is really, really bad. And I guarantee you the rest of the world is still in shock that Donald Trump followed through with this. Maduro was a bad guy. Nobody's disputing that. But here's the problem. Now Donald Trump is pointing at Marco Rubio and people like that and saying, well, maybe they're going to go down there and be in charge of everything. Maybe we're going to have to put boots on the ground. Maybe we're going to have to put soldiers on the ground to rebuild their oil infrastructure. Because now they don't have a leader. We've got to figure out what we're going to do. And if you think Donald Trump is looking for somebody honorable to put in charge, you are not paying attention. Donald Trump is going to look for anybody who says, I'm willing to cut you in, Donald. I'm willing to make sure you get a piece of everything that we do. Make no mistake about it. When somebody gets put in charge of Venezuela with Trump's blessing, I guarantee you that when all of this is said and done, we're going to find out Trump put somebody in power who was funneling money, even if it's secretly, back to him and his family. This is the most corrupt family to ever be in Washington, D.C. Don Jr., Ivanka, Jared Kushner, Eric Trump, Laura Trump, all of them. They don't build anything. They don't govern. They don't fix anything. They spew bullshit and cash checks. Here's the reality. Donald Trump consistently does things that benefit Vladimir Putin. Chaos helps Putin. A distracted United States helps Putin. A world where international law gets rewritten by force helps Putin. And then we get to the most damning question of all. If Trump is liberating Venezuela, then why are Venezuelans being rounded up here in the United States accused of being criminals? There is no answer for that. None. If Trump cared about the Venezuelan people, he wouldn't be snatching Venezuelans off of the streets here and sending them to El Salvador. He wouldn't be denying due process. He wouldn't be shipping people off to foreign gulags while pretending to be some humanitarian hero abroad. That is all bullshit. Trump says it's about the drugs, then he openly admits it's about the oil. And the truth is, it's because it doesn't matter. It was never about the people and always about the oil. Trump admitted it himself. He said the United States would get the oil flowing. He said America would run Venezuela. And according to reporting cited by the New York Times, at least 40 people, including civilians, were killed in those strikes. That's the cost of this so-called liberation. And the timing of all of this, don't pretend it's random. This is what flooding the zone looks like. Shock and awe headlines, chaos, distraction. Anything to keep people from focusing on what they don't want you looking at. The Epstein files. But distraction doesn't erase truth. It doesn't erase accountability. And it doesn't erase the fact that civilians are dead and even Trump's own voters are saying this is not what they signed up for. At least Marco Rubio can relax for now. At this rate, he might wake up tomorrow and find that he's been appointed the new president of Venezuela. He's always wanted to be president, and if that's what it takes to get him out of American politics for a while, some people might be willing to make that trade. So here's where this actually leaves all of us. Donald Trump didn't just attack a sovereign nation without congressional approval. He committed a crime. The illusion that this was ever about restraint or peace or putting America first didn't survive contact with reality. And it didn't take Democrats to say it. It took Republicans. It took voters. It took people who are usually willing to go along until they couldn't anymore. When members of Trump's own party are warning this will backfire, when Fox News Republicans are admitting their votes don't want another open-ended military entanglement, when even the loudest MAGA voices are saying this is not what we voted for, that's not just noise. That's a signal. And while politicians argue the cost is already real, civilians are dead, families are gone, a country has been shoved into uncertainty with no plan for what comes next, except talk about oil, control, and who gets put in charge. That's the part Trump can't talk his way out of. Because once you peel back the branding, this wasn't restraint. It wasn't strategy. It was the same impulse we've seen over and over again. Act first, dominate the headlines, and worry about the consequences later. And this time, even the people who helped sell the lie are starting to admit it. That's not strength, that's exposure. And that is an absolute fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.